What is an industry secret that you know? The places you put your parents, even the more expensive ones. Independent and assisted living. Most are owned by investors who really don't care about your loved ones. Especially the larger corporate ones with multiple units in different states. Some people are paying thousands per month for the bare minimum of care and facilities. The sheet I see and hear will make your skin crawl. 20 years ago I bartended at a place that rhymes with Applebee's, and when serving the regular bar drinkers, I would ask if they wanted a short or a tall beer, supposed to be 16 vs 23 ounces, and I was surprised that they would always order a short one. So after a while I asked one of them why they always ordered a short one, and he told me to fill it all with water and dump it into a short and see what happens. Literally is the same exact amount of liquid. Never order a tall or mucho anything. The mucho is literally extra ice and club soda with no extra booze. Cheers. I'm repair tech at Chuck E. Cheese. There are some games we can adjust the payout for and some we can't. We have a number called ticket per play or ticket per tap that we have to try to maintain. Every game and ride is adjusted somehow so we can get to that average number. The length of the ride is so you will tap your card more or less times. Some games have fixed ticket payout we can't adjust, so we adjust other games up or down to get the whole average to that magical number. If one game we can't change pays out 4 tickets on average and the number we want to reach is 6, for instance, I would adjust another game that can be adjusted to 7 or 8 to compensate, because the boss only cares about the average payout on a whole, not on the individual games, unless it's insanely high or low. If a game is cheating you out of tickets, we probably did that on purpose to compensate for something else. This also goes for the claw machine. We can control how often it pays out. Tickets can be bought at 1 penny per ticket. If you drop a quarter into a token machine, if it doesn't pay you 25 tickets, you're better off just buying tickets. No, we don't reuse pizza. It's cheaper and easier to just make another one since we get the ingredients in bulk. It's just that we cut into smaller slices so it's harder to do right. Plus the kitchen personnel usually doesn't care about making it look perfect. No, the job isn't fun. My job is to make sure you have fun. My job is stressful. I'll answer any questions people have. If you're shopping online, start the checkout process and then before paying close your window. You'll very likely get a coupon with a discount over the next few days in your email. Kind of related, but back around 2008 my cousin wanted to buy gold for World of Warcraft. He filled everything out and just left it at checkout on the website. 40 minutes later we get a phone call from an angry Chinese woman asking if he was going to buy it or not. That was a big nope for us after that. I don't know who thinks that is a valid business strategy or even a good idea. It did scare him out of breaking the rules though, so I guess that's good. The stuff that makes movie theater popcorn taste like movie theater popcorn is called flavicle. It's a salt-like additive that you can buy yourself and add to your popcorn at home. A carton lasts forever because you only need like a teaspoon of flavicle per cup of kernels, and it's indistinguishable from the popcorn you get at the movies. In movies and TV, especially ones that involve action scenes, often when you see an actor wearing a button-up shirt, it's made extra long with little snaps that go between the legs, like a giant baby onishi. This is so the shirt doesn't come untucked when running or moving a lot. My friend worked in wardrobe and blew my mind when they showed me this. In the film industry, producers are utter scumbags. Not much of a secret, but I feel like too many people still seem impressed or think there's some kind of prestige around producers. No. They're just adult children with rich friends who think they're geniuses while making every terrible creative decision ever. If you've ever seen a movie that was like, or, it was awesome, except for that annoying nonsense that happened, the annoying nonsense is 100% the producer feeling like they need to be involved in the process. That's at best. At worst they are actual rapists. Which seems to happen a lot. It's not a secret, but Hollywood promotes many lies about my job. I'm a fire sprinkler tech. Hollywood always shows every head going off during a fire. Only the head that gets hot goes off. If it's a 10-story building and a fire is on the first floor, why would the heads on the 10th floor go off? Plus there isn't enough water for that. Pull stations do not set off sprinklers. They are only tied to the alarm, not the piping. The only reason it bugs me is because it's life safety, and if someone hesitates to pull a pull station during a fire, people die. I remember seeing someone set one of these off by accidentally hitting it. It's not like the movies where this gentle garden sprinkler sprays a bit of water. You get a bang, followed by all the gunge and rust that's built up in there, then an absolute deluge that drowns everything in seconds. Impressive systems, to be fair. Great point. In the movies they look up and open their mouths. Don't do that. That water is stagnant and stays in the piping. We drain it once every 5 years to do an internal, but there is always trapped water, and so is the cutting oil, rust, grease, pipe sealant and everything else in it. I have had customers say, what am I going to do about the water damage if it goes off? And I have to be honest with them that we don't care about the building. If we did, why we would put hundreds of gallons a minute in the building. We are life safety, not property safety. Sprinklers are only to give occupants time to get out in a fire. If it saves the building, that's great, but that's not the priority at all. About the pressure, we have a lot of buildings sitting at more than 150 C of water on the systems. A university we do has 2 diesel fire pumps that feed a loop to the buildings, and it sits at 190 C. That much pressure is no joke. In-store bakeries in supermarkets cost more to operate than doing it off-site in large factories and shipping the stuff in daily, but they operate them anyway because the smell of fresh bread increases sales, not just of bread but across all product types. In reality, only a small proportion of the bread they sell is actually baked in the store bakery anyway. This is also why the fresh grocery fruit and vegetables are usually right by the door. Walking into that gives the impression that this is a store full of fresh and natural goods, which subconsciously triggers positive emotions in our brains. Right now, mass transit agencies in most cities in the United States are dealing with massive shortages of drivers, mechanics, and many other administrative positions. The drivers are working 70+ hours every week just to keep the system going. Drivers need a CDL-BWP endorsement, therefore there is nothing illegal about working a driver 17 hours a day. Therefore, transit agencies are forcing drivers, per union contract in most cases, using inverse seniority, to work constantly. It's a huge safety risk, but no one seems to care about that. In the visual effects industry, everybody learns on bootleg software of some sort. That is why those $2,600 list prices don't surprise anyone. I even had a high-level employee of one of the companies that make it yell at me once, we don't care about some lone kid using it, we want to nail the companies pirating it. He was upset because I had heard through an industry grapevine that a big post house had been caught with bootleg software. Theater seats aren't all the same size. Some are narrower than others. We use a variety to manipulate the sawtooth arrangement so that you look through a gap between heads, not straight into the head of the person in front of you. That means some seats are better, i.e., wider, than others. Marriott actually has 6 tiers on its rewards program. For most people, there are 5, starting at silver, and working your way up through the shiny metals to ambassador, which requires spending 100 nights and more than $23,000 on rooms in a year, and you have to maintain this to keep it. But what their website doesn't tell you is that there is a tier called Cobalt, which can only be given out by the CEO. Naturally, this tier can transform even a lowly Fairfield into a full-service property. I've never seen one, but the only reason I know was because I was given the GM's training manual while learning how to do night audit. I know someone who had a similar level from a luxury hotel chain. They traveled for business a lot, it was their company, and stayed exclusively at those hotels. They also stayed at them for any travel. and would take a few vacations a year. They are also part of the company's timeshare vacation club at a good level. As their level went up, they would stay at the better properties in the big cities. Their membership level hit the top tier pretty quickly, and stayed there for years. One day, the company reached out, "Hey, here's a new level we created for members like you. You're basically top tier for life now. Even if you stopped staying with us tomorrow, they of course continue to stay at their properties exclusively, as long as there's one where they're going. Get amazing prices, the best room available, whatever bonus amenities are provided, and zero hassle." Just last night we were playing a gig and my guitarist said he was going to show us a little trick he uses to get everyone on the dance floor. Over the mic he asked everyone to come up in front of the stage so we could get a group picture of everyone who came to the show. As soon as he got the pic we started playing and everyone stayed on the floor until the end of the set. It was a great. A lot of the private blood tests actually take longer to process than the NHS, public free, blood tests, because most of the private healthcare providers haven't bought into the widely used digital system that's used. Instead, they have to be processed manually, which means going through the extra step of getting the main lab to code them. Staff who process manuals also need more training due to the wide variety of forms used, and the stupid goddamn sheety handwriting we have to put up with. So there's fewer staff who are trained to process them, and they tend to sit there and processed for longer than the easier electronic blood samples. Rich people give their expensive art to art galleries and the galleries have to pay for insurance and restoration while it's in their possession. The gallery then displays the art for a number of months or even years, and when the rich person wants it back, it's worth even more money now that it's been on display at a famous art gallery and garnered interest. Basically allows rich people to print money. A table games dealer cannot affect your odds of winning or losing a hand. However, they can control the way you play the hand, which in turn affects your odds. I used to play a lot of blackjack and always played by the book. I tipped big. I'd be about half or full on drunk. "Are you sure you want to hit that?" or some other move outside basic strategy. They helped me. Also many times have told me not to sit at their tables when the cards are running bad. Also told me to leave the table up when I was way up. Also free sweets and meals, and many other freebies. Water coming from wastewater treatment plants is cleaner than the river water it's going into. The main problem is not enough dissolved oxygen. That's seriously the biggest danger. Meanwhile, the worst pollution for most rivers is runoff causing high biochemical oxygen demand, but aka too much food for bacteria that also consume O2. So just like the danger from the wastewater treatment plant, fish suffocate. All the random stuff from metal finishes is stopped before it's allowed into the sewer system. If the system is working correctly. Walmart assistant store manager training includes a day of indoctrination into anti-union propaganda. There's a whole video section and their legal team comes in to tell you why unions are bad. My friend worked at a Florida state government agency responsible for food stamp and other aid processing. He had several Walmart new hires call and tell him that their trainer told them to apply for food stamps right after they started training. I worked at the rolled gold pretzel factory many years ago. Out of the ovens would come the best pretzels made for old gold. Down the conveyor belt they would roll until they arrived at the cellophane packing machines. Some of the pretzels would go down chute 1, the rolled gold cellophane bags. The price on those bags was $3.99. Some of the same batch would go down chute 2, the great value pretzel bags. Those pretzel bags were priced at $1.99. Other pretzels from that same batch rolled down chute 3, the Kroger brand. Those pretzels were priced at $2.49. All the pretzels were the same pretzels with different prices. You see, stores like Walmart and Kroger are not manufacturers. They are retail merchants. They don't make anything. They have contracts with thousands of manufacturers that make their own products. plus they will also produce for other merchants. It only behoves the manufacturer to have a lucrative contract with some of the biggest retailers in the world. They not only are selling their product on that shelf, but for a little less money, they are providing product for the retailer. You never know who Walmart or Kroger is contracting with for each product. You just have to try it, but always remember Walmart is not a manufacturer. Whatever has Walmart's trademark names on it, was made by some other company. So sometimes, the brand name that you might think is unbeatable is the same thing that's in the bargain brand. This is a fact, not everything, but many things. The $3,000 a month one-bedroom condo you are renting in the heart of a very large city probably has bottles of urine behind the drywall. They really need to put more washrooms in large construction sites. I was a night watchman at a country club and the company they hired to put in sprinklers buried trash in their trenches. How I know? I secretly metal detected that golf course for about 20 years and dug up coins, jewelry, Civil War relics and metal trash. I was hoping the new dirt they dug would unearth some deep buried finds, coins and Civil War relics, that my metal detector could not previously reach. I found a few, but found a lot of very recent trash. Oh, one thing I have heard is that some contractors, if they find a body, they will cover it up since it causes a lot of problems getting the job done. Just easier to not report the discovery of the body. Food expiration dates, especially on shelf-stable foods, are essentially arbitrary. Nutrition labels are often wildly inaccurate. It is technically not legal to use false information, but it's very, very rare to be caught, unless you are making health-related claims. Those food certifications that you see on food labels are provided by for-profit companies that bill you monthly, so they are highly incentivized to certify as many companies as they can and actively ignore violations. A shocking number of ingredients that are illegal or heavily regulated in other developed countries are perfectly legal and mostly unregulated in the US. The same companies that make store brands at higher-end stores like Wegmans and Whole Foods make them for cheaper stores like Walmart and Aldi. I could go on. I wouldn't think this is a secret, but the amount of people who tell me I'm good at claw machines makes me think somehow people don't know claw machines are scamming you. They have an electromagnet inside the claw. Electricity goes to the magnet, it pulls on a pin which forces the claw shut. High voltage sent to the magnet means it really clenches down. Low voltage means it has the grip of a sick toddler. Then the motherboard is just set to how often it delivers a high voltage, what frequency, which type of pattern, randomized, fixed rate, etc. It has sensors to know when you want so it can regulate itself based on whatever the settings are set to. You aren't good at claw machines, so you have been bamboozled. All the similar machines have the same type of tricks. Wine and spirits rep here. The amount of pay-to-play and the shady shit you have to do to just get your brand on a menu is insane sometimes. It's all 100% illegal, but nobody bats an eye unless you really duck up. These deals are all kept off work email and work phones, because state liquor boards can subpoena those records. There are massive fines associated with breaking those laws. Your massage therapist doesn't care about your size or your body hair, but they appreciate when you've showered within a few days of your appointment and have brushed your teeth. They aren't judging you for the things you feel self-conscious about, but they are judging you if you are an entitled asshole. Saying things like "my wife would not be happy if she knew how hot you were," although it may seem to you like a harmless compliment, is creepy and will get you on the do not schedule list. That one shouldn't be a secret, but apparently, there are men who are oblivious to this. When investigating a DUI, or whatever your state in the US calls drunk driving, there are only 3 standardized tests that are recognized as determining factors of alcohol intoxication: horizontal gaze nystagmus, the follow my finger with your eyes test, one leg stand, and the walk and turn. If an officer has you recite the alphabet backwards or put the tip of your finger to your nose, they are conducting completely unreasonable and unnecessary testing. Also, These tests are 100% voluntary in all 50 states, and refusing to do them is not an admission of guilt, but agreeing to do them only provides more evidence to be used against you in court. Not a lawyer, but did work as a deputy sheriff for a number of years. Bottom line, don't drive drunk, but it also helps to know your rights. If you're an asshole, you get quoted higher labor rates. Nothing vindictive, but at the end of the day your job will take longer to complete if you're breathing down the crew's backs and trying to nitpick and micromanage. It's the only way to accurately quote and schedule. I was under the impression that everybody except for assholes knew this secret. I've had some colleagues call this the asshole discount. I worked for FedEx Trade Networks clearing custom shipments, and almost anyone buying anything over $800 or stuff from China and a few select other countries have to provide what's called a 5106. A 5106 is a form the US government uses for duties and tax purposes and sheet, but on the form you need to provide a social security or EIN number. We started working remote in 2021, and on my work computer from inside my house, with nobody being able to ever know I had access to hundreds of social security numbers, addresses, names and everything to easily steal identities. That's not even the kicker. This is an entry-level position and anyone can work it and have access to this sheet. If you import personally from overseas and need to provide a 5106, you're better off getting a LLC to avoid the very high possibility that some dipshit FedEx hire doesn't snap a photo of your 5106 form from his phone. Oh man, as a programmer, one of my earlier jobs was at a financial place as a junior dev. I had full access to our entire company database, including everyone's SSN and salary and everything, but also data on kids and dependents for health insurance and payroll and whatnot, and we also had similar data for all the customer companies. Blew me away how unsecure such secret data was. When I was a private in the military, I had access to an old admin system that we were using at the time. I could pull literally 200k service members' records, including SSN, DOB, home addresses and even dependents info, all in one roster. There was no way to know if someone accessed someone else's record, as there was no data tracking logging. Let's say the hotel is sold out or overbooked, or there's a maintenance issue, etc. The first guests getting moved to another hotel or downgraded are going to be the people who booked a cheap rate through Expedia. Conversely, the best rooms are usually reserved for frequent travelers and people who book direct. Third-party bookings are also a pain for the front desk to change or cancel, so they usually will not give you any grace if you have something come up. It's a lot easier to cancel a direct booking than it is to have to get on the phone with the third-party seller. So many front desk agents will just refuse to even attempt to help you. That being said, I still use third-party sites regularly if the price or the rewards are better. I just go in knowing what to expect, as both a frequent traveler and someone with 12 years of front desk management experience. The entire airline industry is really messed up. From price fixing to discriminatory hiring practices, the whole industry and most every airline is guilty of the same crimes. I've worked as a baggage handler for 2 major US airlines. When I went to the interview for the second one, they told me you already have experience, so as long as you showed up for the interview you got the job. Management gave me no training at all. They told me to find a senior employee and shadow them for a few weeks. I was hired in May and was told to figure it out on my own. The group that was hired in October got a full training class and slowly integrated into actual work. Also, flights are intentionally overbooked because they anticipate human stupidity to miss flights. For example, sleeping in and missing alarm for a morning flight. Tight connection that gets missed, didn't plan enough time for security. Medical equipment manufacturers jack up the prices of everything in the US. Because they can. You can go to say India, buy something like a CAT scan machine, ship it to the US. Express Air, and it will still be cheaper than buying it in the US. Or, you know the little BP carts? The batteries in there are the same as game feeder batteries sold at Tractor Supply. You can buy cases of those batteries from TSC for the price of one from the company that makes the BP cart. In corporate culture, the IT staff can be your best resource or your biggest enemy. They deal with idiots all day, so say hello and treat them nicely. Not only when you have a problem. Bring them some donuts or something randomly. They don't forget and will take care of you next time you have a computer crisis. I've gotten new monitors, extra keyboards for home, cords, whatever I needed because I took some time to say hi and ask how their day was going. Same with the maintenance facilities team. They are two teams you want on your side. Used to work in a company that processed customer mail for other companies. So, if you ever sent a powdered envelope or one with dirt or other sheet to get back at some company that annoyed you, it might not even have reached the company in case. And if it did, because you for instance addressed it to the CEO or whatever, you probably achieved nothing except that the mailroom had to be in lockdown for several hours. So thanks a lot. I'm a makeup artist based in Los Angeles. I cater primarily to A and B list actresses and high-end models. None of them, and I mean none of them, use the skincare that they ask for models for. If they claim they use some drugstore or department store brand or even their own brand, which is just private label bought from a factory, they are completely lying. They all use the same one or two brands which are in the know, exclusive and beyond expensive. The kind of skincare that's made individually in a private luxury lab and not in some industrial factory in San Bernardino. Nobody gets discovered in the acting world anymore. The odds of you moving to LA, Nick, London etc and being picked as an unknown for a major show or film are virtually zero. It's not how it used to be where talent, charisma, and good enough looks can charm a casting director at an in-person audition. Everything is self-taped and these CDs are sitting on their couches eating ice cream and scrolling through the first 5 seconds of hundreds of tapes until they see a recognizable face, and those are the ones that work hard. 9.5 out of 10 times, someone's son or daughter is getting picked regardless of their ability or appeal, or on the rare occasion that someone does have star power, they almost always come from money and connections, and it's a calculated campaign to catapult them to stardom. Timothy Chalamet, Florence Pugh, and Anya Taylor-Joy are all examples of this, and everyone legitimately in the industry knows. They all came from rich and connected families and their careers were given to them by a network of people who all worked in tandem with each other. The only genuinely talented and successful major star that I can think of who actually worked there as often did it the organic way is Zendaya, and even then, her parents had her in acting from toddlerhood. It was basically chosen for her. I've been successful in the industry since I was a teenager, and anytime someone asks me for advice about getting into acting, I tell them to try really hard to find something else that they love and can see themselves doing. Dealerships mark up your interest rate and extended warranties are marked up to the moon. Ask your finance manager what the buy rate is for your loan as well as the cost for your warranty. You're welcome. This tip was recommended to me by a travel agent. When you check into a hotel, politely ask the desk clerk if they offer any complimentary room upgrades. I was embarrassed to try this, but when I did, Ocean City MD Hilton Suites, they upgraded my suite to a top floor with wraparound balcony including jacuzzi. No extra charge. My travel agent friend explained many hotels provide free upgrades but they don't volunteer it, you have to inquire. It worked so well, I successfully used this trick at 3 other hotels. If they don't offer this, they just say no, but there's no harm asking. Brand loyalty is totally pointless, especially with financial institutions. They don't give a duck about you. The exact opposite exists in construction. In construction, brand loyalty can save your ass both with cost. If you have been using X brand for years, you can almost always get reduced pricing. And, most importantly, with maintenance. There is a reason that you see the same brands of equipment at a company's job sites and others have completely disappeared. Brands that made things intentionally difficult, looking at you John Deere, have all but disappeared from many jobs. sure. You book through Expedia and want to change your dates or cancel. You are standing at the front desk. I won't be able to help you. You have to call Expedia and deal with them. Hotels cannot alter third-party reservations. It makes the entire process more difficult when you don't book direct. Smoke alarms don't wake young children up. Research shows that kids sleep through the alarm going off, but they do typically wake up to a mother's voice telling the child to wake up, there is a fire. Sorry dads, no research for you. In the US there is no approved voice recording smoke detector. So if there is ever a fire in a house with kids, wake the kids up because the alarm won't. I wonder if this is why some places have voices built into the alarms. I know in college some of the dorms alternated between the siren beeping and a voice saying there has been an emergency detected. Please evacuate now. Though, I slept through a fire drill in college once anyway, so it didn't work very well. I work in a high school as a science teacher. There's a lot of industry secrets, but since schools are publicly funded, I'm not sure how secret it all truthfully is, lol. I guess I'll try to share what I know though. In a lot of states a school's funding is tied to its graduation rates. So what do you think a school is going to do to ensure they don't lose funding? Inflate graduation rates. If a student can bullshit their way through to senior year, the school will do anything to make sure they pass. Excuse assignments, excuse absences, encourage teachers to change a student's grade, etc. It's disingenuous and destroys the value of a high school degree. We already inflate grades and give kids too much grace as is, but with seniors it's so much worse. This is hands down the worst legislative move affecting public education currently. There are still a lot of good kids. I know that sounds like it goes against my first point a little bit, but it's true. If you look at Teacher Talk or follow a teacher on Facebook, you'd think the next generation is going to cause the downfall of man. Not true. I teach a bunch of wonderful students. I have students with 10x the drive and 10x the natural smarts I did as a child. But talking about the brilliant, well-behaved kids doesn't get reactions on social media. Don't fall into the habit of doom scrolling and thinking every kid is bad. I have so many kids who don't fit the mold those posts create. These kids are much more accepting than the kids I was with in high school. Don't get me wrong, kids still bully and gossip and whatnot. But they truthfully are less racist and less homophobic and less bigoted a lot of the time. My high school had a gender sexuality alliance club, but the posters would get ripped off the walls. It's just not like that anymore. The kids can still be big digs and form their little cliques, but they are generally more accepting. You can see the baby steps of acceptance starting to take hold with these kids. Parents game the system that is accommodations. I have had parents tell me to my face they take their kids to the doctors and schedule appointments with the guidance counselors so they can get their kid labeled with any disability, disorder, shortcoming possible. Not even because they think their kid actually has any issues. They just want their kid to have extra time on standardized tests. As a teacher, it sucks to sit in on a meeting. It's legally required to have a teacher in the meeting. And just listen to why this straight A kid needs 1.5 time to take the SAT and the parent has a smug look on their face the whole time. Accommodations are handed out like candy. Most adults who enter this field are shocked that 50% of their kids have some sort of accommodation. If every kid has an accommodation, it takes away from the resources needed for the students who actually struggle in the classroom. Teachers are people too. You have adult friends who party all the time? Adult friends going through breakups, divorces, adultery? Adult friends who haven't grown up all that much? For some reason a lot of people thinks this doesn't apply to teachers. It absolutely does, lol. This isn't true of everyone, but some people think teachers are all vanilla rule following folk. I tell people I'm a teacher and then they are shocked to hear I like drinking beer, going to live sporting events, and going to concerts. Like, I'm only a teacher 40 hours a week. I'm me every hour outside of that. And the same is true for my co-workers. I don't sleep at the school, lol. I used to work at a clothing distribution center and we would price tag items to be sent to various stores. Same garment from the same box would be tagged at quadruple or more for higher end stores. Swimsuit going to Walmart would be tagged $10 while being tagged at $50 plus going to Saks Fifth Avenue. Both from the same box out of a Chinese container. Changed how I shopped very quickly. Worked in schools for a decade and was in a high-end Masters in Education program and did a 130-page paper on the issues with the US school system. Grades are arbitrary. Unless scientifically developed and tested for years, no assignment is anything like an accurate assessment, and everything in teaching is multiple steps of simplification from any well-researched white papers. The best way to teach is with direct practical applications which directly benefit the students or the local community. Woodshop and geometry should be the same class. Students should be publishing their works. Art shows should be standard and public, and the art should be displayed in the local community. History projects should be for public consumption and involve real research. Learning and performing Shakespeare should be the same project and performed for the public. If the only end result is a grade, then it isn't meaningful learning and isn't teaching skills. We of course do essentially none of these things, and the good ideas are always dumbed down and simplified for teachers because most don't really know much about how the human brain functions. I make tons of money keeping computing up and running. We use turn it off and on again way more than you do. Not necessarily a secret, but more of a fun fact. In fact, that's the philosophy of DevOps. There's a modern concept called cattle, not pets, and the whole philosophy is that you should just stop treating computer like pets. Naming them, taking care of them. Instead, they are just cattle. Just kill it and move to the next one. And since computers now run things virtually, killing a computer service is the equivalent of just turning it off and on again. Like, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on that principle. My philosophy for troubleshooting computer problems is to always look for the simplest possible explanation solution. It takes no effort to do a restart. But reformatting the entire OS is much more work. You can always try the harder solutions if the easy ones don't work. Also, more often than not we make simple mistakes and don't want to think we did. The Sri Lankan education industry, it's not a secret to people in the country, but it is to people outside. Parents encourage teachers to abuse the kids we do bad in class. Like not just verbally but full on physical, punching, slapping and etc. They strongly believe physical violence is the only way to educate kids, so there are stores specifically just for different equipments to beat us up. Ranging from bamboo sticks to wooden logs. The rarest is a stingray tail, which is kinda like an alternative for a whip. My dad had 3 of those. The difference between you and those above you is sometimes just the title issued by the company. And as you either move up the ranks yourself, or start rubbing elbows with those higher ups, will you realize that most of the top brass are relying 100% upon the actual work of the unsung peons below them. This is kind of a known secret, but all reality television is set up and scripted by producers, and then post-scripted again in edit. Interview bites are either fed to cast members to say, or editors cobble together brand new sentences to support whatever narrative the showrunners want to convey. Most of the people running your college or university have absolutely no background or even training in management, budgets, employment law, or anything you'd think is necessary for their job. Quite a few of them were former professors who know their content really well and then never bothered to learn how to actually manage complex institutions. They make mistakes constantly and just smooth things over, or, TBH, just make the same mistakes over and over again until they leave for a better job. The real people who run the college universities? Almost inevitably the secretary in the provost's office who has a high school diploma, is ridiculously underpaid, and without whom the entire institution would sink. This may be a bit outdated, but I'm sure it still applies in some areas. Companies that handle credit card payments might still be storing unencrypted credit card data, including CVV numbers, even if the payments are being handled by a third party. This has been illegal in Europe for a few years, but many companies were still doing it at least up until 2 years ago. In these cases, I can't even begin to explain how easy it is for any employee to access this data. A more current comment: budget airlines make money out of people's scatterbrainedness. Many times, if your case bag doesn't exactly fit the measures, this goes for height, width and depth, you could be charged up $70 or more. Please, read the conditions. Even the most beautiful movie and TV actors sometimes look like hell when they show up for work at the makeup hair trailer in the morning. When the Fox TV network was first starting, I was shooting a bunch of promos for their shows, including Married with Children, and I was first on stage when Christina Applegate showed up at 7 AM on a Saturday, and I called lot security because I thought she was a homeless person who had wandered onto the lot and the stage. She's a lovely person, don't mistake me, and very attractive. But first thing that morning, any market research survey that heavily features responses from India should be taken with a heavy grain of salt. Due to cultural norms, the responses are overwhelmingly positive across the board. A super high NPS score in India is not a finding, it's an expectation. Additionally, always be extremely suspicious of market research surveys that include a lot of open-ended responses that are exclusively online. Surveys with a lot of OE responses tend to pay significantly more per response. These surveys are completely overrun by chatbots. This is especially bad if the surveys target expert respondents. Bookstores do not return small paperbacks, mass market paperbacks, to publishers. Instead, their covers are ripped off and those are sent back to the publishers. It's cheaper to print more books than it is to ship the already printed books around a whole bunch. When I was 17 at my first bookstore job and had to rip the covers off of mass market paperbacks, I was horrified. Now I think it's kinda fun. If you want to know which books get destroyed, look for an S inside a triangle near the barcode. When you mobile deposit a check, a person at the bank or credit union has to manually approve it, even though the app says it's an automated system. We were told day one to never tell the clients that we manually approve deposits, as they would hound us for it every time. It was nice being able to blame the system when we forgot to approve deposits on time every now and then.